Hello everyone, I am here with Desmund Bernardo, also known as 00 Des on his YouTube channel, and he is busy traveling the country on a campaign for direct elections, and I caught up with him a little bit at their base here where they are just outside Pretoria, and we're going to talk about a few interesting things today. Firstly, how was your trip up here?
Well, interesting. It was very rushed. I had to rush from one meeting to the next, so it was filled, it was planned way in advance. So I didn't want to disappoint the people on the way up. I wanted to do a couple of quick stops, but where I was supposed to have one meeting, it would turn into 2 or 3 meetings in an area. So yeah, very rushed, but we managed to get to all the meetings and see many people that are now activated on the ground, and they have a different perspective, I think, on life.
Well, we certainly need a different perspective. Firstly, I know you've done this a lot already on your YouTube channel, but just maybe for people who haven't seen it before, just explain to us quickly what direct elections is about and what you're doing with your campaign.
Well, direct elections is a very simple concept, and it's existed forever, so it's nothing new. It's the first time that people voted for a person that was a direct election. So it's not a simple it is a simple concept. It's not complicated, and a lot of people try and make it complicated and equate it to various systems. A lot of people speak about the Swiss canton system and many others, but there's numerous direct election systems in the world today. So it's not a new concept except in South Africa. And this I find fascinating, the fact that South Africans don't actually realize that we don't elect our leaders. And many of them, when you speak to them, they actually think that we elect our president, premiers and mayors. And this is obviously not the case. We don't even elect our MPs or our MPLs. We know that there's some councillors that have put themselves forward as independents, and those are the only people that are really elected on a direct basis, where you actually vote for a candidate instead of for a party.
And that is a big problem, especially in our country, because I mean, I think it's pretty easy and obvious for anyone to see that there is a lot of special interest influence in our politics, and this is the way our system is currently set up. It provides a vehicle for that, so that you never actually have the option to select a person who would say no to that, because we don't get to select those people. They are selected for us, and that just provides an open gate for people who want to influence our politics. So it's a very important thing, I think, for us to fix.
Well, I think it's a starting point. The campaign that I started called #DirectElections is just to create awareness for the problem. Firstly, that the people are aware that we don't actually elect our leaders, and secondly, so that they can believe that we can actually change the system to one where we can directly elect our leaders, because this is what we need to do.
And of course, also it was ruled recently that our electoral act is actually unconstitutional. So we have to fix it. It's not actually like we have a choice.
The sad thing is, it's not that we have to fix it. They're giving the people that have actually gotten power through this corrupt system that we've been given, they're giving them the might and the right to change the very thing that's going to take their power away. So there's a huge conflict of interest here, and it cannot happen that way. So the first thing that I wanted to make clear is that you cannot expect the people in Parliament that have not been elected by the people on the ground. They've been selected by parties to actually fix the very thing that's going to put them out of business.
Exactly. It's like we've seen countless times in our news over the last few decades, committees investigating themselves. So it's a big problem. It's ridiculous.
Well, the entire system, I believe, was set up for failure. In other words, we inherited a system, and You know, it's basically a system that Britain gave us. Now, whether people want to believe that or not, you can look at the evidence and you can see the actual rituals performed in Parliament, the way that Parliament is set up, the fact that they call it an August House. A Westminster system is deliberately put there for parties to have power, not for the people to have power. And in our Constitution, it interestingly says that this is a multi-party democracy. Now that's an oxymoron right there, and this is a starting point of the failure of our Constitution. Now, as you mentioned, the Concord has found that our Electoral Act is unconstitutional, which means our entire Parliament that's elected now is basically a fraud. I don't want to call it anything else because that's exactly what it is.
It's illegitimate.
It's illegitimate. And they were given, the Parliament or government was given 24 months to correct this. Now, they have 23 months left, and I can tell you now they're already thinking of asking for an extension. So when the time comes, just like with the SASSA grants, they will just say, oh, but we've run out of time, it was too little time. Besides the fact that some of the whips in Parliament have actually said that the Concord has overreached. They don't understand the very constitution that governs the country. I'm not sure that half of them have even read it. And I mean, they took an oath to protect it. So how can you protect something that you don't understand to begin with? And that is why we need to qualify the people that we have in government. And direct elections is a way of electing people that are more qualified than what is there currently.
And that's an important thing. I mean, I've spent a little bit of time when you just set up your group, Directelections, on Facebook, in that group, and I saw people sort of just giving their ideas of who they would put forward as candidates should we have direct elections, and it was people like Thuli Madonsela and people who are in the system already. I mean, if you you need to understand that the system and the people in the system is our problem, and you can't fix it with the same people. I know 702 and Prime Media and all the Naspash outlets will tell you when the time for direct elections come that we need to pick candidates with political experience. Political experience is the last thing that you want if you want the system fixed. Political experience simply means that they are more skilled at screwing you over without making it seem like it's their fault. So people like that who are already in the system, I don't want to say they're all disqualified already, but they're very close to all being disqualified already if a change to our system is what you really want. If you want things to carry on sort of on the same trend as they have been, then by all means pick someone who's an MP already.
Well, in my mind, when you qualify people for these positions, there's many things you need to test them by. And this is a passion that I have. You know, on my channel, 00 Des, who now has over 17,000 subscribers, which is a huge surprise. I never expected it to grow that fast. A lot of people have often said, Des for Prez. They would make that comment. And I immediately tell them, I'm here to impart information. That is my only goal. But my passion is to qualify future politicians or future elected leaders, because the word politics has become like a swear word. Yeah. So I want to use the experience I have and that I've gained in the nuclear industry and bring that into helping to qualify people for that position where they have to stand in for the public and represent them, and actually know how to do that. So qualify the type of personality, the skill set, and then test them accordingly. And it doesn't mean that you need to have a master's degree or anything. Someone need no schooling to be able to go through the minimum training, to qualify themselves, to be able to put themselves forward, to be a candidate. So this is an additional thing that I believe in and that I'm passionate about. So I want to be able to qualify future leaders. You mentioned someone like Thuli Madonsela, for instance. Now, it's mainstream media that has given her a profile. How many of the people asking for that has ever met her, spoken to her about her ideals, understand where she stands on many things that they might be shocked about? For instance, CSE in schools, the transgender acts, surveillance in society. How does she feel about Agenda 21? How does she feel about Agenda 2030?
And I mean, let's be honest, the whole situation that gave rise to her being very well known across the country, was she basically just did her job.
Yes. that is so crucial to understand, that at this stage, anyone that people perceive to have done their job, because I can't prove that she did. This is a perception that was created by the mainstream media. Now, the moment that happens and the mainstream media is involved, I ask questions based on my experience and background. So it's very true that today, if someone just does the basic job right, that everyone is shocked and they praise the person.
That is what
and this is
become now.
So we're in a place where we have a starting point where we have to completely, what everyone says, the new reset or the new normal, I want to turn that on its head completely. Say we need to go back to basics, common sense, and all these words that aren't used these days, and individual liberty. In other words, every person must be able to make a choice. This whole nonsense of collective good, where a whole lot of people can tell one person what they must believe or feel or say, it has to be stopped at all costs.
Yeah, because I mean, in my opinion, there isn't really even something like the greater good or the common good, because all people just simply do not want the same things. If you can,
and that's fine.
And that is fine. And if you tell 50 different people right now that you must pick 3 things that you can have, we can just give it to you, 3 things. You won't necessarily. Everyone would think that. Obviously everyone's going to say food and water and shelter. Not necessarily. Some people might say, I don't need shelter from you, I can build my own freaking place, I want something else in that. So the whole idea of this greater good, and that you can force people to achieve this magical, mythical mushroom that everyone wants, I mean, there is nothing like that.
Or equality. I mean, I absolutely loathe the word equality, because equality doesn't exist and never will. So it's a pipe dream that actually tries to force something on people that's not natural. As humans, everyone is born into different circumstances. I mean, I wasn't born into a family that has wealth, so I had no problem with that as a child. When I had the basics, I was happy. That doesn't mean that I must now go out and say that I should have been equal to the doctor or the dentist's son or the attorney's son at all.
Well, we're in a situation like that now, where I speak to a lot of friends online constantly about the situation we are in now, and a lot of them see the need to move out of a city and to create the sort of self-sufficient communities that you and I have talked about before. And for many of them, that seems, this is just an example, for many of them that seems like a drag, and it seems like they have to give up a lot of things in their life that they wanted. And sure, maybe you have to, it's a bit premature, I think, to make a call like that right now, but maybe you have to. But for me, for instance, and for many other people, I guess, this isn't a downgrade, this is what I actually want to do. So how do you, I've only always lived in Joburg because I had to be there for work. I don't want to live there. So that's just my point. To try and fashion a collective or a greater good in that situation, you're going to spend a lot of other people's money doing it, and you're going to make a lot of people unhappy, and you're never going to achieve it, because it's not possible. Not all people want the same things. For me, having to now, I say having, I don't really have to, I want to move out of the city and live somewhere more rural. For me, that's not a drag at all. I don't feel like I'm giving up anything. For someone else, it seems like an insurmountable, huge wall and severely unpleasant.
I can guarantee you that once I've met with them, that they might think differently about that. And you know, it's all about information, having information and knowledge. Once you have knowledge and it becomes your truth, then it's easier for you to make life decisions. And when you don't have that, it becomes insurmountable. And what I call the fruits of capitalism might make you feel that it's impossible to move away from what you have because you're trapped in this fake system. And it is a fake system, and I can prove it. Because we don't need any of these things that the world tells us we need in the system to actually survive or improve or progress or anything like that. And to say, but it's for the best of everybody out there for you to hand over your freedom on a platter, it's going to cause resistance. Because the people that do want individual liberty and not give it up at the cost of the greater good, which is what the party system is doing right now, it's going to receive resistance. I am a part of that resistance, and I believe you're a part of that resistance too. We want to be able to make our own decisions in our lives, and everyone might not have the same idea of how to achieve the end goal, but they have the freedom to do that. And we're moving away from that rapidly, because with the party system we have, and this is to come back to direct elections, we are electing people caught up in the system. Now, if you mentioned Tuli Madonsela, there's many others, of course. There's many others that have been in the system, and the moment they were in the system, they are tainted. And it'll take a lot of convincing from them to me to make me believe, and they would have to say very specific things to say that they're not part of this collective. And I believe that you are coming up with an initiative to actually separate that, and I'm quite excited about that, and that you've discussed that with me, and I'm sure you will let people know about that when the time is right.
Yeah, it's not quite ready yet. It's close. Within the next month or so, I'm sure we'll announce that, probably together. The other thing I wanted to mention just quickly about the greater good is, of course, it's not fixed, is it? It can change at any time.
Yeah.
It can change according to how the wind blows and who's in power. I mean, do you think if you asked my grandparents, for instance, who lived in the 1930s, what they think the greater good was then compared to now? Now it seems the only greater good that exists is a world vaccine program. Anyway, but
yeah, that's been spoken of continuously, and it seems like that is the major drive, or all hell will freeze over, or we will never visit a rugby game again or a cricket game again. You will never visit a concert again without that. I mean, because we have a new world leader on the topic, and he's called Bill Gates, and he has basically said how it will be. Why he was given that platform on mainstream media is everybody's guess.
Well, it's not that hard a guess, but yeah, that's the one point. The greater good is not something fixed that you can pinpoint. It's like Jello. It moves. You wanted to bring up a story at Kubrick, though, to try and explain to us why we need to qualify people. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I actually haven't told you the story. So this is the first time the story is being told on a social platform. There's very few people that know about it. And what it brings home is the fact that you have these professionals in the nuclear industry that are highly skilled, highly trained, people that I trust, that can still have lapses in focus and concentration, or be time stressed, and then make a decision that can cause severe problems. Okay? Now, luckily on the day, nothing bad happened, but we were this close. And the reason why this happened, and I haven't told you the story, so it's the first time you'll be hearing it as well, is the fact that a bad thing had already happened. We were doing fuel handling in the containment building. So this is above the reactor pool. So above the reactor, when we refuel, there's actually a level of water to protect you from the irradiated fuel assemblies. So the reactor head is removed, and then we remove these fuel assemblies from the reactor and transfer them through to the fuel building. It goes through a tube to the other side. But there's a special crane with a telescopic arm that can locate each and every fuel assembly in the reactor core. So there's coordinates on the XY axis, and the crane driver monitors this and actually goes and latches the fuel assembly, etc. Now, I was the crane driver or the fuel handling crane operator on this specific shift. And earlier on in that outage, this was when we were putting fuel back into the reactor core. So what happened was, earlier on, someone else had actually slammed the crane into the side of the reactor while the telescopic end was still down without a fuel assembly attached, okay? And what they were doing is they were moving lights in the pool to shine down into the reactor so that you can actually see properly what you're doing at the bottom. And the person from reactor fuel engineering has a binoculars, and he'll look through a little perspex glass at the bottom of the crane to actually see into the pool whether the tool has latched the fuel assembly correctly to pull it out, etc. So it's being monitored, and they are the supervisors. You are the crane driver for the refueling. So you're the operator of this refueling crane. And I did this on a couple of occasions before other contractors actually took over the work. But what happened earlier in the outage with the unload is there was no fuel assembly attached. The crane was still down. The telescopic arm was still down. So it was inside the reactor. And the crane was moved at high speed, and it slammed into the side of the reactor and bent the entire mast by 5 centimeters. So because of this, we had to put masking tape on the tracks on the side. So on the side of the crane on the XY axis, there's actually cameras where I can monitor screens, and I can see exactly how many millimeters I'm at, whether I'm X, Y, Z on the actual grid, or whether I'm on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the XY axis. So we had to put masking tape over the entire length to offset that 5 centimeters because the crane was bent. Okay, because of this. And obviously the management called the work stop because of this incident and said, never again can you move the lights with the crane extended down into the reactor. You have to pull it all the way up, but it takes forever. So it takes time to pull it back up. Now there is space to move inside the reactor with the arm down. But obviously you can crash into the sides, and there were no limits set at that stage. They would prevent it from hitting the side of the reactor. They've upgraded the crane since, and I mean, it's impossible to do that now. So we were already working with a bent crane at the time. And everyone was told, never again are you allowed to move the lights with the crane down in the bottom. On the shift, we were pushing for time. And the supervisor at one stage said, now we need to move the lights. And we called in someone from electrical maintenance because they actually have to perform their duty, untie the lights and move them to another place. And they're actually floating in the pool. And the supervisor said, I know the mast is down, but we know you're on this side of the reactor. It's just go across to the other side, and so we can pull the light across the pool. And I said, you know, we're not allowed to do this. There was already an incident. They actually said they will fire all of us if we do this. But I'm a junior at the time. I've only been at Kubrick for 2 years, and this person is a senior supervisor in reactor fuel engineering, and a person I respect to this very day. And he said, just go. So there's a little joystick that you use to maneuver the crane either forward or sideways. So he said go high speed, because you can go low speed and high speed. So I went high speed, and he said carry on going. And I don't think he was looking at what was happening in the reactor. But at one moment, I just had this feeling that I had to let go of the lever. Now, you always go from high speed to low speed before you stop. So I was going full speed, and this feeling came over me. I must just let go of the lever. I just let go of the lever. And the entire crane went like this. It's this long thing above and long under the water. They almost fell over the side. And I looked down through the sight glass, and I couldn't see space between the actual mast and the side of the reactor.
Wow.
But we didn't hit. And I said to him, come here and have a look down there. He said, if you'd hit the side now, you would have walked off site and not returned, ever returned. You would have just left. So what this tells us, that even highly skilled and trained people that have been trained at university, that have degrees in physics, can make lapses, can make mistakes in the nuclear industry in the most stringent environment. How much more can a politician that has been elected by his crony friends in a party system where there's no accountability to the public mess up and stuff us around? If that story doesn't drive the point home that we need direct elections where you elect a person and you have a mechanism in place where that person can be removed by the public as well, not a party, the public, then I don't know what will.
And it gets worse when you look at supranational bodies like the AU and the UN and even SADC, which is a small one. But riddle me this, how do you hold anyone in one of those accountable? Ever?
Well, we have a president right now that is the head of the African Union. They're not elected or anything like that by us.
They're appointed.
So our president is the president of the African National Congress. He's the president of the country and he's the chair of the African Union. How is that even possible? So our system is such a farce right now that if the people of the country don't realize how serious this mess is, because this is what got us to where we are now. Because of those events in the nuclear industry, that news went around the world to all other nuclear power stations, and they had to fix the mistake that happened at Kubrick everywhere. So this is a nuclear protocol. When any incident happens somewhere, that news gets shared with everyone in the nuclear industry. It doesn't matter what country you're in, and all the power stations has to make sure that they have everything in place for that not to happen again. Now that protocol has to be enforced in government. I mean, I cannot see how we cannot apply those basic best world practices.
Well, at very least they need to be qualified for what they're doing. As you said earlier, it seems like many of them have sworn to uphold something that they haven't read, and it really does seem like that. But hopefully, I mean, that is what we're trying to address with direct elections. And you've only just started your campaign. There's still a long, long road to go with that. So,
but there's 30,000 people on the group now, and the thing that I'm really glad about is the moderation on the group has been extremely strict from the word go. So it was not a sensationalist platform. Many people complained that they weren't allowed to just post any news because it is about a focused thing.
Yes.
So the 30,000 people that are there, there is quality people.
They're there for a reason.
They're there for a reason, and that is really heartening for me because I didn't expect under those severe and strenuous moderation conditions that a group would grow to that size as fast as it has. It's not even a month. It's not even 3 weeks, in fact.
Yeah, and look, it is a hard thing to keep a large group of people focused on something like this, especially when there are so many campaigns and groups and things forming right. And even I am forming 2 or 3 new ones, which we'll get to in other videos. But it is hard to keep people focused on one thing. And I think that has been done very well in your group.
A very good moderation team. What I did at the onset, I picked one person that would be the head admin, and it had to be a lady. And I spoke to her, and if I need anything addressed, I speak to her directly, and she will then lead and guide the rest of the admin team and the moderators, and they're on a WhatsApp group, and it's a great bunch of people. They really understand what it's about, and if there's anything that I need to add, then I add it, and they will give their comments and say how they feel. But I think that's part of the success, is the fact that people actually make an effort to understand what we are trying to achieve. And once you do that, you become a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And the activation on the ground is happening every weekend now. As far as I've toured, those people are activated. So they are going and they are standing with the awareness campaign, and they've got bumper stickers and they've made clothing to get the concept out there, because that's all it is.
And there is nothing that beats speaking to people face to face. You can, I mean, social media has given us a lot of good tools, but for something like this to really drive the message home, I think seeing people one-on-one, face-to-face is, yeah, as I say, you can't beat that. Well, we'll make, it seems like you're going to be here for a while.
Yes.
So we're
going to be here until it's done.
Yeah. So we are going to have plenty more discussions. Make quite a few videos while you're here. Thanks for having this little sit down with us, and we'll see you again. I don't know, when are we making another video?
Very soon, I hope.
Hopefully this week.
Yes, I just want to say to all the people on Double O Days, if you haven't subscribed to Agenda 21 Truth South Africa, please do so now. Justice and I, we've known each other for 2 years now on the phone. This is the first time we've actually met. He's met my wife before he's actually met me. Yeah. And he has been busy with us for a long time. He's done so much research, and I trust him, and this is why I back Agenda 21 Truth South Africa. So I want you to please go and subscribe to his channel, Agenda 21 Truth South Africa, on YouTube, and go and support him. Justice needs the support. He's got proper studio equipment. He does proper videos, not the kind that I do where I just speak and you have to see my ugly face and listen to my voice again. He makes professional videos. There's a lot of research that goes into it, and it's quality videos. So watch them and share them. And the other thing that I want you to do is to follow what he's doing, and please donate towards his cause, because it's important. He has left his job at SuperSport behind to do this full time. We need many people right now that is invested in doing this work in the country, exposing what is happening in the world, and people like Justice needs all the support they can get, and I will support him. I want you to support him too.
Thank you, Des. Yeah, I do need the support. I mean, this is a full-time job. As you know, it takes a lot of time.
I don't think people can appreciate how much time it takes for you to actually make one of your videos, because I know my videos where I put in pictures and so on, it takes days sometimes. So I mean, the amount of time you put, I know it takes you up to a week sometimes to produce a video.
And they have to be cleaned up and taken all the ads out, and because there's some of them look like Christmas trees. But yeah, thanks for sitting down with us. I think Lauren and I will also have a chat about some things. It's good to have you guys here close by where we can actually meet face to face. And thanks everyone for watching, and keep following #Directelections over on Desmund's channel, Double O Des, as well as on Facebook. There is the group #Directelections there. That will keep you up to date and give you as much information as is available at the time. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Please remember to click subscribe and the bell for notifications, and you can find us in the following places.